school hallway smelled faintly of floor polish and old books. Lockers slammed shut in rhythmic bangs as students rushed to their next class, their laughter bouncing off the tiled walls. But among the crowd walked Emily Carter, clutching her books close to her chest like a shield. She was the type of girl people noticed only when they needed someone to laugh at. She never raised her hand in class, never sat in the middle of the cafeteria, never talked loud enough for her voice to carry. Emily wasn't invisible, but she wished she was. That day she walked slower than usual, keeping her eyes on the ground. She learned that avoiding eye contact was safer, but then came the voice, sharp, arrogant, and laced with mockery. "Well, look who it is." Emily froze before she even turned. She knew that voice too well. Jake Morrison, the bully everyone feared. Broad-shouldered, athletic, and mean to the core, Jake controlled the hallways like he owned them. People moved aside when he walked, not because they respected him, but because they didn't want to become his next target. Jake stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Two of his friends trailed behind, grinning like hyenas waiting for a show. He smirked as he looked down at her, his hand reaching for her shoulder before shoving her against the lockers with a dull thud. "You're mine today," Jake hissed. Laughter erupted behind him. Emily's heart hammered in her chest. She felt the familiar wave of humiliation crawl over her skin. This wasn't the first time Jake had singled her out. He had knocked her books to the ground before, called her names, whispered cruel jokes behind her back. But this time, this was different. His grip was tight, his eyes daring her to break. Her throat tightened, her hands trembled. She wanted to cry, she wanted to run. But then, deep inside her, something stirred. A memory. Her father's voice, warm but firm, from the evenings they spent together in the garage years ago. "Emily, strength isn't about size. It's about knowing when to stand up. Bullies get their power when you give them your silence. Remember, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you stand anyway." Emily's father had passed away suddenly 2 years ago, and with him, she had felt like her courage had died too. Since then, she'd let people walk over her, too afraid to fight back. But at that moment, with Jake's hand pressing her against the cold metal lockers, her father's words burned in her memory like fire. Emily's lips parted, and though her voice shook, the words came out steady. "I'm not your victim." The hallway went silent. Jake blinked, stunned for a moment. His friends exchanged awkward glances. Emily had never talked back before. He sneered, leaning closer. "What did you just say?" Emily's eyes, usually hidden beneath her hair, locked with his. This time she didn't look away. "I said I'm not your victim, not anymore." Jake's face twisted in anger. He grabbed her wrist, expecting her to crumble, but Emily's training from her father surfaced like instinct. With a sharp twist of her arm, she broke free from his grip. Then, with surprising speed, she shoved him back with both hands. The force wasn't huge, but it was enough to make him stumble a step. Gasps echoed down the hallway. Students, who had been watching quietly, now leaned in, shocked. "Did she just?" one whispered. Jake's smirk faded into rage. He lunged forward, but Emily stepped aside. His shoulder slammed into the locker, and a ripple of laughter spread through the crowd, not at Emily this time, but at him. His power, the fear he thrived on, was cracking. "You think you're tough, Carter?" he spat, his pride wounded. Emily steadied her breath. Her hands trembled, but her voice came out stronger now. "No, I just know I'm stronger than you'll ever make me feel again." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Jake froze, his fists clenched, his face burning red. He wanted to fight back, to regain control, but he couldn't. For the first time, the shy girl who had always been his easiest prey had turned the tables, and everyone saw it. His friends shifted uneasily, unsure whether to laugh or walk away. Jake's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but instead of striking again, he muttered a curse under his breath and stormed off down the hallway, his pride in tatters. His friends followed, their laughter gone. Emily stood there, her body shaking with adrenaline, her books scattered across the floor. But when she bent to pick them up, something was different. She didn't feel small anymore. She didn't feel invisible. She felt free. One of the girls who had laughed earlier stepped forward, guilt flashing in her eyes. "Emily, that was incredible. I'm sorry I didn't say anything before." Emily gave a faint smile, hugging her books to her chest. Her father's words whispered in her memory again, "Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid, it means you stand anyway." For the rest of the day, whispers followed Emily wherever she went. "Did you see what she did to Jake? She actually stood up to him." Some people admired her, others were just shocked, but one thing was clear: she had changed the story. She wasn't the shy girl in the background anymore. And Jake, he didn't stop being a bully overnight, but he never laid a hand on her again. Something about the way she looked at him, that fire in her eyes, made him hesitate. Maybe he realized he couldn't break her anymore. Maybe he realized his power wasn't as real as he thought. But for Emily, that moment in the hallway became the turning point of her life. From then on, she wasn't afraid to raise her hand in class. She wasn't afraid to sit in the cafeteria without hiding. She wasn't afraid of being seen. Because she knew she wasn't a victim. She was stronger than she had ever believed. And all it took was 10 seconds of courage to change everything.